So we are in the last week of Black History Month, and I decided to do a series on the utter pile of bullshit known as Black history. Now, thankfully, this was made much easier because of a YouTuber named John Doyle, and he pretty much broke it down in his wonderful shorts series called Exposing Black History. So I suggest you go and subscribe to his YouTube and watch all his videos. So we may as well start this series off with a bang and touch that ugly Negro that most people think is untouchable, and that is Martin Luther King Jr. Let's see what John Doyle exposes about this degenerate fraud idol of black people.
Day 16 of Exposing So Martin Luther King, to many Americans, even to many conservatives, was this virtuous Christian pastor who just wanted peace and for society to judge people based on the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. Schools are named after this guy. You spend years learning about him as a kid. He's the only man to have his own federal holiday, plus monuments, statues, streets. You get the idea. Turns out everything about this guy was a lie. First off, MLK actually rejected the divinity of Christ. He wrote a whole essay saying that calling Christ divine is actually detrimental and harmful. He also criticized the Bible for containing legends and myths. He even described the virgin birth as downright improbable. This is not very Christian, but he was selected purposefully to be the figurehead of this movement rather than other influential black figures at the time, guys like Jackie Robinson, because it was thought that he'd be able to use Christian language to appeal to America, even though his actual agenda was like...
So let's pause the video right here. Now, first of all, the titles of pastor, reverend, bishop, or even pope are made-up, man-made titles to fool people into thinking that anyone who was given any of these titles is some kind of pious, sinless, righteous person of high morals. Therefore, they want you to think that these people have some kind of authority over you and everybody else. So obviously, the most degenerate people in the world often seek out and obtain these titles to hide behind and cover up their degeneracy. So it comes as no surprise that Martin Luther King Jr. hid behind the title of Reverend. Also, King's real name was Michael. It was changed to Martin Luther so people would associate him with the creator of the Christian Protestant movement, Martin Luther. And yes, King was handpicked by the communist progressives to be one of the figures of the bullshit civil rights movement. King was not born out of an organic grassroots movement that grew due to popularity out of truth. Okay, let's continue.
Completely different. And that was when it was his writing. It turns out he plagiarized nearly everything else. Scholars from Stanford University and the King Papers Project found in 1990 that MLK plagiarized nearly all of his other works, including his doctoral dissertation. But Boston University refused to revoke his doctorate, even though in literally any other case they would have. What a privilege.
So it's common knowledge that King plagiarized his doctoral dissertation. So of course, that makes him a fake doctor. Now, we shouldn't be surprised that academia refused to revoke his doctoral status because Western universities are run by Marxist, communist, political activist professors. If we do a deep dive into any black person with high academic credentials, I think we will find the same thing. Lots of fraud and lies. Let's continue.
Okay, but what was his real agenda?
Dude, so true. Turns out King was a communist for his entire career. He attended the Highlander Folk School in 1957, which was a Communist Party USA front for training radicals. His right-hand man, Bayard Rustin, founded the Southern Christian Leadership Council with him, was also a young Communist League member who attended Communist Party USA conferences. One of his main advisors was Stanley Levinson, also happened to be a big financer and supporter of Communist Party USA. Ghost wrote a ton of stuff for King, including the famous I Have a Dream speech. Also, King's biographer David Garrow revealed that King would frequently call himself a Marxist when conversing with close friends. He also totally supported reparations and affirmative action. In fact, he gave a Playboy interview in 1964 where he essentially called for a $50 billion program to basically just give black people free money.
Well. Is anyone surprised at who was King's handler and puppet master? Let's continue.
Also, as his close friend Ralph Abernathy spilled in his memoir, King liked to embezzle donations for alcohol, drugs, hookers. On speaking tours, he would hire prostitutes for hotel orgies lasting days at a time. One time, he was caught on tape actually laughing while a woman was sexually assaulted in front of him in a hotel room. Even the night before his assassination, Abernathy said he bedded 2 women and beat a third in his Memphis motel. The FBI has all the tapes, even though a judge ordered them sealed until 2027. That's how King spent his last night on Earth after delivering his biblically inspired mountaintop speech in Memphis. Lastly, the claim that MLK was some peace-loving guy, not exactly true. He of course went to great lengths to present himself as this peaceful activist, but that was mostly an optics thing. In one of his most famous speeches, King rationalized riots by calling them the language of the unheard. So yeah, King was just trying to cover his ass. He knew that the fear of rioting and looting could be used as something that could coerce white people into accepting race communism. In fact, this was so obvious that there were literally newspaper cartoons at the time making fun of how ridiculous and false this all was. I guess the peaceful protest strategy in 2020 wasn't really that new. So no, MLK was not a real Christian, he was not a virtuous man, he was not a real doctor, he was not some colorblind conservative, and he was not committed to peace. He would be just as woke as all of his colleagues ended up being if he were still alive today. I did a whole hour-long breakdown of this on my YouTube channel, go check it out.
Most of you should not be surprised at what John Doyle just revealed. King was not just some black man who was risking his life fighting injustice against black people. He was an average, typical black man who stole, did drugs, beat women, was okay with sexual assault, committed adultery, and paid hookers for sex. And this shouldn't shock anybody. Most of the prostitutes that he hired were white. And if he couldn't get a white prostitute, he got very light-skinned black ones. So basically, confirming the stereotype that black men lust after white women. Obviously, King saw this civil rights leader gig as a way to procure money to finally get some white women. Even if they were prostitutes he had to pay to have sex with him. In fact, Jackie Kennedy Onassis saw right through King and knew he was a degenerate fraud. And it turns out that a lot of black people back then also realized what he was towards the end of his life. Now, lots of people have uploaded videos exposing MLK over the years on YouTube, but to no surprise, YouTube took them down, and I'm sure they'll take this video down as well. So go to subscribe to my channel on Rumble. Now, because people have done expose videos on King, I knew a lot of this information already on this modified Negro word for years. But I'm pretty positive this information about his degeneracy is only scratching the surface. Now, if they actually release his files in 2027, I wonder how many white people will actually accept this and start to wake up. Will this shock you back into reality? I guess we will see. So, there we go. The untouchable sacred cow of the progressives that are destroying America and the West got touched and touched bad by a white boy and a racist Asian. Please leave a comment, like, and subscribe for more racist Asian content.